What's up, everybody? So look, I was talking to somebody today, and they were telling me about the kind of ministers, preachers, and leaders that they were accustomed to over the years and stuff. And they were kind of describing them as like, man, it was like, yo, it was like they used to just make people cry on a regular, like to just make people cry. They were mean. And I was sitting there thinking about it. Like, it took me a minute to kind of process that, because I'm thinking, like, what kind of minister or leader of anything is the type of person that just wants to make people cry? You know what I mean? I try to picture that in my head. It's like somebody's just kind of like looking around to see who they can make cry today, type of stuff. And that just sounds like the devil to me. That sounds like the devil. What does the Bible say? That he goes about like a lion looking to whom he may devour. That sounds like the devil. And at the very least, those kind of fruit, those kind of actions, those kind of characteristics and behaviors are a terrible example to follow. Very terrible example. The first thought in my head was, yo, this person, I kind of felt bad for them. I was like, bro, this is the type of examples that you had to look up to. Like, bro, you should be able to see something's off, first of all. That's a terrible example. Nothing like Jesus at all. And when we look at Galatians chapter 5, 22 through 23, it says that the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. These are the fruit of the Spirit. These are good fruit. This is when someone is walking in Christ-likeness. And if someone's walking in the opposite of that, then what kind of fruit is that? It's bad fruit. And if it's bad fruit, then you know what kind of tree it is. So if the ministers, if the preachers, they were referring to, the preachers that I've known just be making people cry, they were mean and, controlling, all of that's like, you know what I mean? You could picture that kind of a leader. If that's what that kind of a minister was, then what were they a minister of if their fruit was so bad? Because if good fruit looks like love, joy, and peace, then what does bad fruit mean for the minister? What kind of minister does that make them to me in the way that I think? That makes them not a minister of God. That makes them a minister of Satan. If their fruit looks like hate, anger, anxiety, meanness, bitterness, bipolar, aggressive, controlling, and manipulative, that sounds like a minister of Satan to me. It don't sound like a minister of God. And listen, when I say this, I know not everything's a one size fits all. So I'm not saying that because we've all probably struggled with some of these at some point. I'm not saying if you ever struggle with any of these, then that makes you that. But at the very least, if this is something that's in your life, bitterness, anxiety, fear, you don't have any peace, you're controlling, then that at the very least means that there is a minister of Satan coming after you, meaning a demon. That means there's some kind of opposition coming against you, and it's working against you to bring you into fear, the opposite of peace, to bring you into bitterness, to bring you into anxiety, to bring you to feel like you got to control everything. At the very least, you need to surrender to God. You need to trust God in those areas. If you struggle with some of these things, like being manipulative, being aggressive, being mean towards people, especially if you're a leader. If you're a leader, this is the fruit of the Spirit speaks for itself. If you read Galatians, and if you're doing the opposite of the fruit of the Spirit, then your fruit is bad. And what does that tell you? So if you struggle, be real with yourself. If these are things that you struggle with, because we've all had our moments, we need to surrender those things to God. And how do we get past from those inward things? Because if you think about it, when we get into church, we think that we got to start acting, or on the surface level, we got to look, so we got to dress better, we got to act better, we got to act like we got it all together. But when you look at the fruit of the Spirit, it's not outward, it's inward, which means it can only come from one place, which is what? The Spirit. The Spirit of God is the only person that can get you from the bad fruit to producing good fruit, which is love, joy, peace. Even the first three are inward. That tells you that it can only come from God, and the only way to really get there is to spend time with God, to spend time with the Spirit. If it's the fruit of the Spirit and you're not spending intimate time with the Spirit, then you're not being renewed in here, and therefore it'd be impossible for you to produce the right kind of the right kind of fruit. So I say this to say, man, these are just indicators to be able to tell what you're dealing with. And for those leaders out there that are manipulative, controlling, full of anxiety, mean to other people, making people cry, coming up with excuses, all of those things that I listed, I'm just going to list them one more time. Hate, anger, fear, anxiety, meanness, bitterness, bipolar, aggressive, and manipulative, controlling. You need to surrender to God, and you need to repent, especially if you're a leader, because there is a higher standard, for one. For two, any believer needs to walk in the fruit of the Spirit, Christ-likeness, which is love, joy, peace, and so on and so forth. But an easy way to check the fruit within ourselves, like when we do communion, it says we need to thoroughly examine ourselves, not with self-righteousness, but really examine our fruit and really examine ourselves. Are we really walking in the fear of the Lord? Or are we just walking in religion? Because it's really weird to me that, someone could say, the kind of preachers they're used to seeing are people that just make people cry. They're just mean. And it's like, those weren't real ministers. Sometimes I wonder, how do people even get into ministry when the way they act is like some of the witches and Satanists that I knew? If you act like the world and you claim God, then you're using his name in vain. Using his name in vain isn't just saying GD. It's literally saying you're coming in his name, but your fruit is way off. And you don't want to go up there and be like, Lord, Lord, haven't I done this? Haven't I done that? And he say, I never knew you. You don't want that. We don't want that. I don't want that. Last thing I want to know him, and I want to be known by him. And if that's the case, if I really want that lifestyle, then I have to walk in his Spirit. I have to get intimate with his Spirit. I have to get to know his Spirit. I can't produce any kind of spiritual fruit without getting to know him. So in this season, no more excuses. Take off the mask. Full surrender, full trust. That's all there is to it. Our example is the Most High. Our example is Jesus, Yahshua, Yahusha, whatever you like to say and call upon his name. He's our example. Not these false preachers, false prophets, false teachers, false leaders, full of bad fruit. We have to be like Christ. Peace.